Hello everyone, could you please send me plus in our chat if you hear me and see me well? Thank you, I see. Perfect. Perfect. And now, practical, let's start. Let me share my screen to show my presentation that I have prepared for you today. So first of all, we will speak about grammar in general. We are speaking about part number 3, about grammatical tasks, and namely about morphology. Now let me introduce myself. Of course, it's necessary to know some facts about me in order to understand who am I. I am Anastasiya Igorevna Shkitina. My general education was connected with college studying. Also, I have graduated from Novosibirsk State Pedagogical University. There I have been studying for 5 years, probably practicing English and German and getting this teacher training preparation. Moreover, I'm still a student of Moscow State Pedagogical University at the Institute of International Education, Modern Technologies and Teaching English. This is the name of the program that I'm currently taking part in. And also, I'm a part of this big team of Moscow State Pedagogical University, and namely the part of the Institute of International Education, because I'm a teaching assistant and I have the course of practical grammar and also English for academic purposes. And now let's speak about the agenda of today's webinar. First of all, we will cover several aspects, such as 2 frequently used tenses and their meanings. And of course, we will practice a brand new sample of which was published this year, a bit adapted to our needs because we still practice 2 frequently used tenses today. And after that, feel free to ask your questions during the question and answer session. First of all, if we take a look at this particular scheme, we will see that grammar, in terms of the forthcoming examination, consists of 2 big parts. The first one is syntax, and the second one is morphology. Today, we will concentrate on morphology mostly, and we will discuss only a small part of it. We will speak about some tenses, as I have already mentioned, and practice them. And to start my presentation, I would like to ask you to rack your brains a little bit, to take a look at these examples and try to guess what tense is used in these particular sentences that you see on your screens. Feel free to use our chat to send your answers. Do it the following way: the first and the form of the verb, comma. The second answer, the form of the verb and comma. Let's practice a little bit and discuss the answers. Feel free to type your answers in our chat. For example, number 1, it's you think took, okay. Took. Present simple with S, okay, takes. Any other suggestions about number 2? The island has an area of 49 square kilometers, the biggest part of which, right, glacier, is covered. Covered, is covered. Okay. Any other versions of sentence number 3? I have the errand, not rain, but we need to put it in the correct form. Doesn't rain, Doesn't rain, good, well done. Doesn't rain, perfect. The last example about earth, the earth, and the verb is turn. Turns, okay, perfect. Well done. Now let's discuss the examples that you have provided me with. First of all, let's take a look at slide. What do these examples have in common? Think about it for a second and we'll discuss it. These are the correct answers. The first one is takes. Why exactly? It is directly connected with the meaning of present indefinite tense. Take a look. In the example number 2, we have also the present indefinite tense, but in the passive voice, as well as in example 3 and 4. But what actually do these examples have in common? Not only tense. It is directly connected with their meaning, and today we'll speak about it. So this slide demonstrates the active and passive voice, the way the present simple tense is built. In the active voice, of course, we add as and es to the third form, to the third person singular, he, she, it, plus s and es. And of course, we do not change the verb, we just simply omit the particle to with the rest of the pronouns used here in this slide. The interrogative form is created by means of the auxiliary verb do. So if we have do, then we have I, does, he, she, it, and again do with the rest of the pronouns used. The verb stays the same. We do not change anything with it within this form. In the negative form, we have the following way. Do or does plus negative particle not. Do not, does not. And in the passive voice, we have am, is, are, plus the verb in the third form, or if we speak about the, only if we speak about the irregular verbs. It is also called past participle. Now let's take a look at the following meanings. These are only some meanings of the present simple tense. Let's speak about them in great details. The first one is to enumerate or to state habitual actions. What does it mean? To name all the actions that take place regularly every day, that you do every day. For example, you wake up, then you go to the bathroom and you wash your face, you clean your teeth, and so on. These are about the habitual actions. In number 2, we have the second meaning, which stands for to denote facts in the present. It's quite controversial if we take a look at the third example too, because there we have general rules of and general laws of nature which are used. How to differentiate them? Practically, it's not so difficult, because if we take a look at the scheme, at this particular slide, we will see that some tenses, they have a particular context. What does it mean, a context? What do you think? Context, it means the words that stand together in one sentence. In the first meaning, to enumerate and state habitual actions, we, again, enumerate the actions and claim that they take place regularly. For example, they get up, then they suffer. My students, of course, go to bathroom, wash their faces and clean their teeth, and then put on their clothes to take part in online classes. Of course, the second example says that, and on Sundays, we stay at home. It happens always. That's why we say that this action is habitual. The next example in interrogative form, which is the question here, it represents the idea of the frequency of action. Do you often go to the fitness center? In this case, we're speaking about, again, about the habitual action. The second meaning is connected with the fact. What is fact? Again, it's fact, but it can be a little bit controversial. So we can speak about it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, what a pity. It's a fact. Then, the second example demonstrates the following sentence. Water is a liquid. However, it can be in the form of ice. So it means that water can be a liquid and water can be an ice too at the one and the same time. So in this case, we speak about the fact. Fact can be a little bit controversial. So people depend on Earth resources. Not all of them. Not all people depend on them. Then some cats don't like water, but my cat likes to swim or likes to drink water, for example, right? So in this case, we have a kind of a controversial action. Most students are happy to use online learning platforms. The same situation here. Most students are happy but how to differentiate between students, how to understand who exactly likes to use these particular learning platforms, it's quite difficult. And one more meme that is presented on this slide: one doesn't simply win an argument with a woman. Again, quite controversial fact. The third meaning is connected with the general rules or laws of nature, and it shows that the action that we describe is true for the past, it's true for the present, and it can be true for the future. Okay, there are 12 months in a year. No one will try to speak about that there are 13 months in a year, for example. It's quite obvious. So when we speak about general rules and laws of nature, these are facts also, but they cannot be denied. So the next example, it snows in winter. Frankly speaking, here we underline the laws of nature. It typically snows in winter, and also snow melts at 1 degree Celsius. In this case, we cannot say anything about it. We just simply admit that this is the fact. Then 2 + 2 makes 4. The same idea. Good. If we take a look at the next slide, we will practice these meanings that I have enumerated. The first meaning, let me remind you, is about the habitual action. The second meaning is directly connected with the fact. And the third one is more or less about general rules and laws of nature. Then we have the same sentences that we have discussed before. Let's try to discuss the meaning. What do you think? What meaning is used in the first sentence, especially in the verb that is highlighted in red? Could you please use our chat to send me the answers? Festival takes place in Bristol. A world center for ballooning is called the Bristol Balloon Fiesta. It takes place regularly, right? Every year. What meaning is used? Kind of a fact, but if it repeats every year, can we speak about, for example, the habitual action or routine? Yes, we can. If the action repeats regularly, daily, I would say annually, I mean every year, right? We can say that the action is habitual. So the first meaning is about habitual action. The second example, the island has an area of 49 square kilometers, the biggest part of which is covered by a glacier. What do you think? What is that? A biggest part is covered, but the rest we do not know. So the second meaning is connected directly with fact 2. Agree. This is a general fact that is used. A bit controversial because if we speak about it today, it can be covered. Tomorrow, we still do not know. The fact is not true for future. That means that we use the second meaning. Exactly. What about the third one? An average of only about 1.5 inches of rain falls each year in Death Valley. And in some years, it doesn't rain at all. Type your answers, please, in our chat. Falls each year. Falls each year. Good. Again, it's a fact. Right, Sean? It's a fact. Good. What about the last meaning? The Earth turns 360 degrees every day. Every day. We can consider it as the law of nature. It is true for the past. It is true for the present. It is true for the future. Undeniable fact. That's why we say that this is the third meaning. But frankly speaking, I didn't tell you all the meanings of the present indefinite tense. We also have one more. It's quite complicated, and we will speak about it in great details. This is the fourth meaning of the present simple or present indefinite tense. It is divided into two parts. So a part of it is connected that when we have a big complex sentence, in this case, we say that in adverbial clauses, when we have time and condition in sentences, and when we have these conjunctions, when, till, until, as soon, provided, on condition that, in case, unless, if, while, after, before, as long as, in this case, we use the present indefinite tense in this part of the sentence. Let's take a look at the examples below. When the sun comes, comma, ring me up, please. We see that one part of the sentence is exactly the adverbial clause, because there we have the adverbial clause of time and a specific word that refers to, which is called conjunction, that refers to these clause. When the sun comes, when we have these time or condition, we regularly use the present indefinite tense. The second example, do it as soon as you're through with your duties. Absolutely the same case. When we have the adverbial clause of time or condition, we use the present indefinite tense. Let's try to identify whether it's the adverbial clause of time or condition in the second example. Do it as soon as you're through with your duties. What do you think? Is it about time or condition? Kind of condition. Exactly. Absolutely agree. Because if it were the time indication, in this case, we would speak that when you're through with your duties, then it's okay. But here we have as soon as a condition. Right, John? Good. In the third example, I promise not to tell her anything if you help me to get out of here. So in this case, do we have the time or condition? And pay attention that we again use the present indefinite tense here in this part. If you help me to get out of here. Condition. Okay, general. Right, you are. Right, you are. Because here we speak about certain circumstances, certain sentence, certain context that helps us to understand it. Right, you. The second part of this theory about the adverbial clauses of time and condition also includes the following aspects, such as mostly with the verbs of motion, such as to go, to come, to arrive, to start, to leave, to return, to sail, and lots of them. We typically use the present indefinite tense because there we have either a settled plan or we also have the time indication. What does it mean? A specific point in the future is mentioned. In example number 1 about the delegation. The delegation of doctors go to Moscow next week. We use go and not will go, just because we have the verb of motion. Take a look, in brackets we have it, go, and plus we have this specific time indication, which is next week. Go and next week fall together as settled plan. That's why we use the present indefinite tense here. Then, the second example. The project starts on Sunday. Starts, again, it's a settled plan for the nearest future, by the way. And we have the time indication when, on Sunday. The train leaves at 5 a.m. In this case, we have strict schedule. If we have a settled plan or a schedule, feel free to use the present indefinite tense. Okay, moreover, we can say that she leaves for England in 2 months. Same example about the settled plan. Leaves in the present indefinite tense and in 2 months as the example of time indication. What do you do next Sunday? It's not about what are you going to do, or it's a bit different from what will you do next Sunday. In this case, we say that there is a settled plan and nothing will change generally. If you do not write the present indefinite tense, in this case, probably you will try to write the future tense. But unfortunately, in the adverbial clauses of time and condition, we never use future tense. It will be a root mistake. So remember that in adverbial clauses of time and condition, we typically use the present indefinite tense. Okay, now let's have some practice. We spoke about one more meaning, the false one, when we discussed the settled plan, schedule, plus time indication, and some adverbial clauses which have when, till, until, as soon as, provided on condition that, unless, if, and so on. Try to take a look at these sentences that are presented here and put the verb in the correct form. Use our chat to send the answers. Good, goes number 2. Good. Lands. Lands, perfect. What about number 3? Goes, good, goes. Well done. Number 4. Gets, perfect. Till it gets dark, right. And the last one about driving test next week. Yes, okay. Quite easy for you, but now let's complicate it a little bit and take a look at the meaning that is used. In example number 1, we have, if all goes well, I will finish it in fortnight. It means in 2 weeks, right? So if all goes well, we have here the subordinate adverbial clause of condition. Under the condition that everything goes well, I will finish this task, for example, in fortnight. In example number 2, we have an Indian prime minister lands at 4 p.m. in Moscow. Take a look. We don't have any subordinate adverbial clause here. We have the verb of motion, land, right? And also a specific time indication, when, at 4 p.m. and also where, at Moscow. It's a schedule, again, it's the plan, and we have time indication. That's why we use the present indefinite tense here. Moreover, in example number 3, we speak about the subordinate adverbial clause of time. Why exactly? Let's ask a question. They will have peace together when tourists go away. So it's definitely about time, because we asked the question when. And moreover, we have here the conjunction when. It connects 2 parts of the sentences. That's why we use the present indefinite tense and not the future indefinite one. An example number 4, same situation. We have the subordinate adverbial clause of time, because we need to wait when, till it gets dark. And the last example about driving test next week with the verb has, because we have she as the subject, is connected with fixed kind of arrangement. And we also have the time indication here, when, next week. Okay. Now let's speak about one more tense, as I have already promised you. We have the past indefinite tense, and let's revise a little bit how to form it. In the positive form, or in affirmative sentence, we have the verb plus ed, or if you have the irregular verb, we take a look at the 3rd column of regular verbs, or this form is also called the past participle form. We had a test last week, and he moved to London in 1976. If we have the question, we use did plus subject plus the verb without this particle to in general. So we say, did we have a test yesterday? Or did he move to London an hour ago? And in the negative sentence, we didn't have a test yesterday, and also he didn't move to London, for example, on the 1st of April. Do not forget that each tense has a specific time indication. So it means that we have these markers, then when we see them in the sentence, we can easily identify the form. And the past indefinite tense is not the exception. It also has its own markers, such as yesterday, the day before, last or that Sunday, week, month, year, I don't know, trip. Any noun can also stand together with a lost or that. And moreover, we may say that any phrase that goes together with ago suits well for this context too. If we have a specific date in 2011 or in 1976, in 1970, it also suits well for the past indefinite tense. Or if we have the specific date, I mean the day and the month, we always use the past indefinite too, if the sentence is about the past, of course. Then, the passive voice is formed by means of was, were, and the verb with the suffix ed, or also we take a look at the third form of the irregular verbs of the past participle, the third column that we have typically when we deal with the irregular verbs in general. Okay, now let's take a look at full meanings of the past simple or past indefinite tense. Here we've got some kind of a coincidence because in the present indefinite tense we also have the second meaning. Take a look at it. The second meaning is to denote habitual actions in the past. If we think that I daily wake up, I go to bathroom, and also I wash my face, I clean my teeth, here we speak about the present context. But we also can do absolutely the same. We can do absolutely the same. Do you hear me now? Could you please send me a plus if you hear me? Okay, good. Good. Probably when we speak about the same actions, but in the past context, we use the past indefinite tense. We can say, I used to love feeding them. I mean, monkeys, I don't know, dogs, rabbits, or someone else. Maybe a person, maybe speaking of a baby, why not? Babies. On Mondays, they had to get up at 7. Had to get up is again the habitual action, but in the past. Let's return to the first example above. We have to state a simple fact in the past. Again, a coincidence. Lucky we are. We know already the most part of these meanings in the present indefinite and the past indefinite tense. Because when we state a simple fact in the past, we speak about the fact, but in the past context, that's it. She was too strict with us, giving tests every week in the previous semester. So was strict, in this case, is about the past action. We have was in the form of the past indefinite tense. It's the regular verb, that's why we take a look at the second column, right? Then, also, if we speak about the third meaning, to denote a succession of past actions, what do we have here? Succession means if we have several actions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they follow one another. So action 1, then action 2, then action 3, and so on. The example below demonstrates it. The car stopped, the door opened, and a very handsome man in a luxurious car got out of it. First of all, we have several actions such as stopped, opened, and also got out. So 3 actions, they are enumerated in one sentence, not in 2 sentences, but in one. And that's why we call it the succession of past actions. If we speak about the past and we have the enumeration of these verbs, of these actions in the sentence, feel free to use the third meaning to denote succession of past actions. The first one is directly connected with, again, adverbial clauses of time and condition, our favorite ones. Now, let's discuss them. If we have the adverbial clause, let me remind you that we have these kind of enumeration of condition or probably the time. The blue table below demonstrates the conjunctions that can be used. When, till, until, as soon as, provided that, on condition that, while, if, after, before, as long as, lots of them can be used in the adverbial clauses. Take a look at the first example. She said she would come when the film was over. Why not use would over in the highlighted part? It's impossible. As I already mentioned, we cannot use the future tense within the adverbial clauses when we have the meaning of time or condition. That's why we use the past indefinite tense, because the previous past part of the sentence is given in the past context. We have the verb said, also would come, and the part we're interested in, adverbial clause, is used in the past indefinite tense. The second example is absolutely the same. She said she would do if nothing unexpected happened. If nothing unexpected happened here refers to the part of the adverbial clause. A kind of a condition is mentioned here. If you have this condition, we still try to remember, if it's condition, we never use the future tense. That's why we use the past indefinite tense. It's a good advice for you to imagine a scheme in your head in order to sequence these actions, to understand what was the first action, what was the second, and what was the third one. A scheme here on this slide demonstrates it. This part refers to the past tenses. Then in the middle, we have the present tense, the action that takes place right now. And to the right of it, we have the future action. Of course, in the sentence, she said she would do it if nothing unexpected happened, we have three actions. And they are depicted by these black crosses, right? The first action is said. She said, when it happened earlier, in comparison with would do, and unexpected happened, right? Or later, of course, earlier, because first of all, everything that she did, she said. So on this scheme, we draw that she said, this is the first action in the past. Then the second action, we have in the future in the past form, which is would do here. And it is directly connected with the next part, so-called subordinate adverbial clause. Because here we mean the future result, the future condition, if it take place in future, but very important, viewed from the past. So all these actions are not about the distant future, but they are directly connected with the actions in the past, which are viewed somehow in the future perspective. Okay, let's take a look at next slide. I have prepared a kind of a test for you. Here we have the verbs given in brackets. I would like to ask you to work individually. It will be beneficial for you because in this test, which is created especially for you, we can practice these grammar notions and these meanings in a particular context, which is similar to your examination. Use our chat to type your answers. So in the first one, we have the verb be. It's necessary to put it in the correct form. What do you think is under number one? Is. Okay. Good. If you're ready with example number one, take a look at sentence number two. We're working individually, do not forget it. Good. Number three. Okay, was published. Perfect. So Oksana thinks that we should use was and then gives, but we will discuss it. Okay. Well, you also may take a look at text number 2 about GPS functions. Feel free to accomplish it. Good, Oksana. Well done. So what about gap number 6, about the car GPS tracking? Gap number 7, where? Good. Number 8. We have 4 more examples, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Is, good, Alexandra. Are used, perfect. Well done. Number 10. Doesn't break, okay. Good job. And the last one, the keyword, will become. And it's high time for us to reveal the correct answers and to discuss them in great details. First of all, in sentence number 1, we have the correct answer is. Let's read the sentence to understand why it's present indefinite and not the past indefinite, for example. The Thorn Birds is a 1977 best-selling novel by the Australian author Colin McCullough. Okay, we cannot say that it was a best-selling novel because nowadays we still can find this novel and we can read it, and it's an undeniable fact in the present that this is the best-selling novel. That's why we use is as the correct answer in the first gap. Okay, now we start thinking that if the first initial sentence in this text is about the present context, perhaps the close standing sentence, the next one, will be in the present indefinite too. Let's check it. The story gives information about the life on Australian sheep stations, but also includes a dramatic love story. When we discuss the content of the book, of course, we speak about the present tense. It's quite obvious. That's why we use the present indefinite tense, and the meaning that we have discussed today is the fact. Okay, gap number 3 is directly connected with the past indefinite tense. Pay attention, we even have a specific paragraph, own paragraph for these past indefinite tense. The book brought the writer international fame as soon as it, and the correct answer was published. Okay, gap number 3. Why do we use here the past indefinite tense? What do you think? Date. It is directly connected with the event that took place in the past. We still do not know. We don't have any information about the author. We do not know whether he is alive or not. In this case, we simply use the past indefinite tense to make sure that the writer had in past his international fame, and the verb in the past will be brought. So the book brought the writer international fame. By the way, pay your attention that on this slide we have as soon as, and this is the subordinate adverbial clause that we have discussed today. When we have as soon as, till, provided that, if, whether, in this case, we use the indefinite tense, not the future one. According to the context, we have here the past indefinite tense in the passive voice, because book cannot publish itself, right? So someone published it. That's why the book was published. Can we say as soon as it would be published? No, never. Remember, we do not use future tenses, any future tenses. Future in the past, or simply future tenses in subordinate adverbial clauses of time and condition. Gap number 5 is was adapted. In 1983, it was adapted into TV miniseries starring Richard Chamberlain and Rachel Ward. In this case, we have again the past indefinite tense in the passive voice, because the book didn't adapt itself, so it was adapted. The passive voice is used first of all. And why don't we use the present context here? Because it's impossible. The previous situation, previous cases, previous context about the international fame and when the book was published, they influence the next sentence, the next standing sentence, and they dictate this use of past indefinite tense in this case. So no present tense because the situation itself is connected. By the way, what meanings are used within the broad, was published, and was adapted? We have some kind of a habitual action. We also may have a fact in the past. We also refer to subordinate adverbial clauses. What meanings are used in number 3, for example? Number 4 and number 5. What do you think? Could you please type your answers in our chat? So the book brought the writer international fame. Fact, exactly, brilliant, well done. So in number 4, as soon as it was published, what meaning is used? As soon as it was published. Kind of a fact, but we also have one important condition. As soon as, if, when, till, provided that, on condition that. It is called subordinate adverbial clauses. It means that we have either time or condition in this sentence. Okay, then in gap number 5, the book was adapted. What meaning is used? What do you think? Fact. Again, good. If we analyze the first text in general, we see that most frequently used tenses are the present indefinite and the past indefinite. That's why pay attention to the meanings which are used within these texts. Typically, we deal with also perfect tenses, but this presentation is mostly oriented on the past indefinite and present simple tense. Let's take a look at text number 2 below about GPS functions and check your answers that you've provided me with. So in gap number 6, we have appears. And again, it's the fact in the present. Let's test it. Car GPS tracking appears a lot new vehicles offering drivers tracking and navigation. It is directly connected with the present moment, not with the past one, according to the context, because GPS functions, they develop and appear in the present moment. In generally, we don't have this time indication in this sentence, unfortunately, and it's quite difficult for us to analyze it and to choose the tense, whether we should use the past indefinite or whether we should use the present indefinite tense in this context. But if you try to believe to your own ideas, if you start thinking about the context of the sentence and the meaning which is used, it's quite obvious that we should use the present indefinite tense because GPS tracking functions, they develop daily, right? So we're speaking about the fact which refers to the present moment. The next sentence, which is directly connected with gap number 6, is, take a look, are. So yes, the latest inventions are even more modern and sophisticated, offering extra opportunities to people. Why are and not were, for example, in the past? Because the previous sentence, where we have the gap number 6, influences the use of present indefinite tense in the next closed tense sentence. They still develop. They are even more modern and sophisticated, and they offer extra opportunities to people. 2 connected sentences. Never think of a sentence that it is independent, it is not connected with the context. It's not correct, of course, because all the sentences that stand together, they are interconnected. And then we have gap number 8, smart box technology, and the correct answer here is, again, the previous sentence with gap number 7 influences the choice of present indefinite tense in gap number 8. We have the meaning of a fact. Smart box technology is one example of how these car GPS tracking systems are used. And your example that you provided me with was exactly correct. And we have this fact here, but in the passive voice. Pay attention that passive voice here is used because the action itself cannot produce itself, right? Someone does it. That's why we use the passive voice here. In gap number 10, which is presented, by the way, by a new paragraph. So a new paragraph makes us start thinking that something may change. But unfortunately, we still use here the present indefinite tense. But why? Let's try to analyze it together. I have already explained you 4 meanings of present indefinite tense, and we also have this if in the beginning of the sentence. If the driver doesn't break the rules, he gets a discount or perhaps an insurance premium. Why do we use these present? Why do we use here the present indefinite tense? Because again, it's the subordinate adverbial clause, either of time or of condition. Exactly, we have zero condition. Exactly, condition is used. Well done. And the last example here, without doubt, this new technology will become its future predictions. It's not about the past, not about the present, very soon. Exactly. So the nearest future is implied. That's why we use the will become kind of a prediction in this sentence. Now, let's move on to useful tips. What I can say, how can I help you with these grammar part? I can say that simply do not hurry up, because you should pay attention to the first tense, the first sentence that is used in the text. It creates the overall mood. It creates the overall choice of tenses in the context. The second tip is directly connected with that you should take a look at the previous sentence, at the following sentence that we did today actually, and think about the tense itself. Try to visualize it in your head, or perhaps if you have a paper next to you, so you may draw this timeline to highlight when exactly the tense takes place within this scheme, to understand whether you should use the past or the present or other tenses that we didn't speak today, unfortunately, right? So we need to identify these tense to compare it with its meaning. If we identify the meaning which is used in the sentence, probably it will be easier for us to explain the choice and to be sure in our answer. So if the meaning and the form, the way we write the tense itself, do not contradict the sentence, the ideas that are presented there, the sense, it means that your choice is justified, so you are doing the right thing. In this case, let me move on to the next part of my presentation, which is dedicated to question and answer session. So feel free to ask your questions. Thank you. Thank you for coming and spending time with me, learning grammar. Okay, in case you don't have any questions, I will present you one more slide, the last one, a minute, to say you goodbye and to say one more important thing. If you really want to learn and master languages, come and study with us at the Institute of International Education in Moscow State Pedagogical University. So on this slide, you may see some useful links in order to find us on Instagram, in VK, and also in YouTube. And also, I've provided you with some context that where you can ask me any questions that are connected with the grammar part. So thank you very much. Have a good day and goodbye.